Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today's March 13, 2026. Want to thank Rob Grant and this amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Also want to thank the wonderful and beautiful Carolyn Casey for introducing me to today's guest, Jesse Wolf Hardin. Where are you calling from, Jesse?
The Wild Gila Wilderness, New Mexico.
The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
The best thing from outside into us, or the best thing about us?
Exactly what I'm saying is you put the questions into the context you want. So if you want to do both, that's fine. If you want to do either or, that's fine. However you want to answer it is fine with me.
Well, I would say the best thing about us is our potential, and that comes from our authenticity, sense of purpose, connection with the natural world, having every atom of our being alive and responsive at all times. I mean, in that we are perhaps an evolved species, not to be the managers and the intellectual people who control every aspect of the earth, but rather as the ganglions, as the nerve endings, as like the feelers on an insect, meant to pick up all of that's around us, to process that, and to process it not just through our minds, but through our hearts. So that is why humans create more songs than any bird can. That is why in the midst of wars, we're still doing beautiful things for children, writing beautiful poetry, finding the inspiration, for wondrousness in our lives. So if we are evolved, therefore, for that purpose, then becoming our authentic beings and living in that sense of mission is perhaps the greatest thing about us, for us, that we can give to the world.
So beautiful. I have to go on a tangent, and that's what I want you to. I welcome tangents, stories, anecdotes. You don't have to answer the question. We're just throwing out prompts, because right to Carolyn Casey, she taught me about biomimicry, where we imitate the plant. We see the plant that's like Velcro, and then we invent Velcro. So it's biomimicry. Marshall McLuhan's the opposite way. He's saying, I'm not the opposite, but he says another way. He says we extend our humanness with our inventions. So we invented songs. Humans invented songs. So it extends some humanness. So there's a little flip there. My philosophy is, well, maybe humans whistled and then the birds heard us and imitated us. And people go, that's bullshit, dude. No, we heard the birds and we imitated them. We can't prove that.
Some of the birds do. The magpies we have around here are very good at copying almost anything that comes out of my mouth. So
right.
But they precede us. They're dinosaurs. So I would say that they have a few million years of singing ahead of us.
But your comment that you literally said we make more songs than bird songs. Is that what you said?
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely. That's a creative force. If that doesn't tell you why we're on the planet, I don't know what does. There's so much doom and gloom now, and don't get me wrong, I can go off for hours about all the things that are really screwed up right now in the world. It's immense threats, immense reasons to be on a downer. But the fact is that as soon as you realize that the best of what we are is the best of life on the planet, I mean, we are the equal of the most magnificent things that have ever happened, with an added creative force, an added sense of mission, and of not just self-awareness, but global awareness that never existed. So no matter how we screw stuff up, no matter how many wars are going on, how many horrible things are happening, the constant reminder is that we're here for a purpose, a greater purpose. We're equipped for that purpose, that none of us is ill-equipped to become the amazing creatures, the dreaming creatures that we are and that we can be.
You are so articulate and concise. And my hero was Frank Zappa. I happened to work for him for 10 years. And at one point, and I lecture on him all the time. And at one point he goes, "It's so fucking great to be alive." Now he knew all the fucked up shit in the world, but just to say that statement resonates with another hero, Louis Buñuel, who said, "Long live the living."
Absolutely. Well, that's, they say, is there life on another planet? The question is there life here? They say, what happens to me when I die? Well, what happens to you if you live for a moment? If you get out of that template of intellectualization and reaction, and you get into it like, here's your moment. Don't waste your moment. It's like, whatever comes afterwards, and it may be all kinds of amazing shit. I don't know. But
Yeah.
whatever it is cannot replace, nor is it any more amazing than what's going on right now.
Exactly. The great prankster, I forgot his name, one of the first pranksters in America. The cliche was, is there life after death? He said, is there sex after death?
Is
So
that Ken Kesey?
no, it's not Ken Kesey. I'll think of his name someday and I'll email it to you. But he was an amazing guy. He said, oh, he did something in your regard. He said, we have to clothe the animals. And he literally got on the news. This guy's on a campaign to clothe the animals. And it was a joke. Okay, the next question, Jesse, is what's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
Oh, well, certainly my least favorite form, if you don't mind the negativity, is the way that we have to do it through internet, through ever shorter memes rather than lengthy discussions. I mean, the loss of a handwritten letter. I used to exchange letters with, Gary Snyder and Barbara Moore and, all of these people who were my inspirations, and our in-depth back and forth, not always polite, but always informative, always inspiring. I still hold those letters, and I can hold them in my hand, and I can feel the tree flesh, and I can feel the smell the ink, and I can sense the person who sat there and wrote it out to me, whether it was a fit of anger over my opinions or some great agreement that gave me the affirmation that I needed. So the further we get from that, I mean, artificial intelligence would be at the worst. Anything information fed through an artificial sifting system or what is already fairly bland human intellectual template, right? And next worst to that is that we have to speak through this way, that I can't have you by the campfire. I can't say, oh, listen to that bird, and then we stop all thinking and then just take in what the environment is teaching us. And that leads me to the ultimate. So there's human close contact, eye to eye, even better than a handwritten letter, certainly better than anything electronic. But then there's that moment of silence. And I don't want to get too Eastern here because I'm a piss poor example of Eastern religion. I mean, I have no patience, et cetera, et cetera. I've chased off way too many trespassers to even qualify as nonviolent. But I can tell you that in the moment of opening up and getting out of our minds and letting come through sure, we can hear whatever we want to hear, and there's a lot of projection on nature and on spirit, magic, God, whatever. So much. I mean, religion is based on our projections on a greater being. But there's also a true flooding of information, of affirmation, of stimulation, and more than all of that, of communion. So that whatever does come through our head is being filtered through the fact that we're now hooked up to the ecosphere, to the greater grid, to the living earth, Gaia. And through that process of being hooked up, that's an automatic fact check for everything that we do. It's like, is it resonating with this larger sense of self that we are not connected to? It is the bird songs. It is the wind in the trees. But it's so much more than that. It's something that we don't make up, that no story we ever tell can be more amazing than the story that the earth is giving to us when we truly drop out of our heads long enough to sense fully that we're a part of it.
So well put. You are a wordsmith. You're a word crafter. And what you said really resonates with Pascal, the great philosopher, mathematician. He says, all the problems in the world could be solved if you can learn how to just sit in a room and be silent. And, so you've written 25 books. This is divert on that.
Much for silence.
Say it again.
So much for silence.
Right. But I'm just saying, a lot of people, when I say, what's your favorite form of information? I interview all different types. They go, well, reading or books. Now, you must have read books growing up because you have a vocabulary and then you articulate language so beautifully. And it's what I love about Carolyn Casey. It is like it's just the way to learn for me. I need to hear it. I'm a reader, but I grew up a idiot, so I can't read very well. But you must have read books growing up, or I'm trying to insist on it that maybe you didn't. Did you become a reader, one, because your parents told you, two, they did as an example, or three, on your own?
They were certainly not by example. My dad read a little bit of Reader's Digest, my mother nothing. But they were enablers. And so my mother in particular, it was whatever passion I had, no matter how unrelatable it was for her, she fed it 100%. She worked full time in order to get me into military school just so I could be challenged by the academics and lose my stripes 3 years in a row. I mean, the woman got me Encyclopedia Britannica back when that was the way to get. There was no Google, you know. It was, you had to get this year's encyclopedia. And she bought it for me every year, and I would read it page to page. I wouldn't look up certain things. I literally would go from cover to cover because there was nothing more interesting to me than information. What stimulated me most, though, were the people who did it in a way that was song-like, so that it touched not just my thinking and rational process, but touched my heart. So the great fiction, you know, the great Dostoevsky, and I can go on and on. In modern terms, it was people that infused a poetry of literature and of motion with meaning that was substantially significant in our day and age. And that's something very ageless and wondrous.
Yeah.
And one of my heartbreaks now is to see the percentage, supposedly 80% aren't reading hardly anything now besides little tiny short things on short form social media. No longer reading books, not even, you know, Harry Potter or whatever, the popular stuff. So it's heartbreaking to me that they don't remember even the great writers of my generation, let alone the people that I look up to from all the way back to from the Middle Ages on, really. But it's this poetry of communication that evokes a poetry of life.
Yeah.
You know, because what good would it be for us to survive, work out all our problems, even stop, you know, being racist and warmongering? But even at that point where we're just like, if we're out of the poetry, if we've lost the sense of the rhythm, of the evocation, of the double meaning, of questions raised by every statement, if we've lost the dance of words, you know, for living outside of the poem, then we've lost everything.
Yeah.
But if we have that, even in the worst of times, and through the word, whether it's spoken, mind you, or whether it's written, you know, if we lose that, then all we have left is very manipulable wordage working on the behalf of some trend, you know, some artifice, some controlling idea or controlling administration.
Jesse, I do believe everything you said, but I want to believe Mallarmé saying everything ends up in a book in the long run. And kids are just doing haiku poetry instead of long-term essays, but they're still reading. And that's the dance of these are the dance of words in poetry and song. All the words you use were so right there and nailed it. You're communicating to me so well. But I wanted to say, this author who got famous writing books, she said, my mom lived in the Caribbean. She never read a book in her life, but she knew what to do when the tsunami hit because she learned it from a song. So our songs are not going to die away, dude. We know that. We're going to keep singing, and the kids are going to keep singing all the songs we grew up on in one way or another. So I wanted to interject really fast. What was the name of the military school you went to?
Sepulveda Academy.
What city was it in?
Southern California.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. Sepulveda. Okay. No, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
First of all, to enable survival.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I think even deeper than that is that childlike curiosity that we see in every young kid, and it slowly vanishes, as they get older
Yeah,
if they're stuck in society too long. But they're not just looking for usable information; they want to be fascinated.
yeah,
They want to be surprised. They want a mystery. They want something to figure out, something
yeah,
to discover.
yeah,
Not a map, but something that's off the map.
yeah. You said something in your interview I listened to today, which resonates with McLuhan. He says, "You mean my whole fallacy's wrong? You're like the type who's curious because you want to be back to Pascal. You want to know this end of the spectrum and that and everything in between. You don't want to just what I get from hearing you. So, do you think, and this one is heavy because Jesse, I look up to you because you've studied these two phenomenons deeply, I think, from hearing what you've said. Is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented?
Mm. I don't know about innate, but because it's a circumstance and a consequence of environment. If there are lions that can eat us and berries that we need to gather at a certain time of the year, plants that can kill us and herbs that can cure us, that's information necessary for not only our survival but our children and therefore future generations. This is
So you said I don't know about innate. Are you saying it? Because here's how most Jesse,
yeah.
90% of people, no, 99% of people, I want to change the wording on this question. I go, is it more innate or more invented? 99% go, oh, it's innate. But sometimes people go off. Are you saying yes, it's innate, or are you saying no, it's not innate?
Well, innate would be that we're already born with the craving, just as we're programmed to have sex. We don't need to learn any motivation for why to get it on with a sweetheart. Uh, I would say that's definitely innate. But I don't think you're just born automatically, because in a way, information can take away from the joy and the bliss. I mean, it's hard to be. It can be hard. It can be hard to just be playing and
Yeah.
and dancing in the river. If you got a lot of shit on your mind that and a lot you gotta you feel responsible to figure out and make better.
See, you answered it better than anybody I've asked in 40 years, the same stupid question. But it's so funny because I go, when you said sex is innate, okay, sex positions aren't innate. We invented sex positions, but
That's it.
we probably didn't invent the need to have sex.
No, we didn't invent the urge.
But the urge to eat, here's the one I say. Everybody thinks we're innately it's innate to eat. And I goes, what about breatharians? And people go, what are those? And I go, people who live by breathing alone. They go, that's bullshit. That's pseudoscience. So I'm not saying I believe in breatharians, but maybe there are people who live by breathing alone.
Well, bigger question is, why do so many people eat so much food and barely taste the muffins?
Yeah. Okay. Do thoughts create emotions?
Yes, and vice versa.
Yeah, both. Fill in the blank, Jesse. I don't know what I think until I.
Depends on what you mean by no. I hate to qualify it, but what I truly know are things that I sense non-verbally, even, and don't require any thinking to process it.
Well,
and
that's
everything that I process, everything that's processable, is stuff that's questionable. And it's just like in science. Or even in magic, I want to see it. I've seen real magic. I've had real spiritual things happen. I've also heard a lot that felt like bullshit. But the way I know is through a feeling, not through a thought. So thoughts are subsequent to that.
McLuhan said, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion said, I don't know what I think until I write it. Can humans think without language?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a whole level that we think subconsciously that probably involves some language modeling, some icons, iconography, something that triggers for us, associations and patterns, because patterns is how we understand everything. But at a more subconscious level, it's not, complete senses. It's not syntax.
Yeah.
It's this interweaving, this interspersing that keeps developing into something new. That happens below just the normal speaking, verbal, thinking way. But then there's also thinking just strictly in visuals. Somebody sits into at a anti-war demonstration, and there's rubber bullets flying past their head, deliberately aimed at them and stuff. That's not a thinking process per se. That is visual. However, taking in of information and visually. So all these little pieces come together. And if those three pieces are together, I better do this, get my ass out of the way, move to the left, move to the right, de-escalate, try to talk sense, or else, fight back. All of that has to be determined, not through verbal thoughts, but through a mosaic of images, all of which have reference points in your past and, more importantly, in your ethics.
Three things you evoked there beautifully. I was riding my bike and I was by this construction site, and there was a pole right at my head. And I literally did not see it, but my head went down. And I went, how in the fuck did that happen? I did not consciously go down. Then the war demonstrating, I mean, that's March 28th upcoming, No King's Day. My specialist said we had 7 mil on No King's Day last time. If we get 3 more, we might make an impact. 10 mil. And so Frank Zappa said, you got to love the cops as they beat the shit out of you on the street. That is a heavy satirical message. But how do you love the cops when you're saying, I don't want war, and they're beating the shit out of you? Just a question. I'm not posing it right now, just a thought. But the last one is there's this guy, Vermin, this political activist, Vermin, I think his name is. He says at the protest, you stand in front of the cops with all the people and you chant, give the cops a raise. Give the cops a raise. Now, how are the cops literally, if they're really human thinking beings, which they are going to beat people up or are saying we should be giving you a raise? Yeah. So that's all aside from what Chomsky said. Language is not just words. It's culture, tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Well, I don't know that language ever breaks down. The ability of people to hear is what's, that's the big factor here. People hear according to the cultural templates, trends, but more than anything else, the way that the media and their particular amen corner is voicing everything.
Yeah.
The human need to be part of a group is so strong. I mean, we're social creatures. I in particular, living in the middle of nowhere, it sounds funny to hear me say that. I'm 7 river crossings from pavement, 300 miles from the nearest alternative community. But it is true that we are, in our very essence, social. So there's nothing more rewarding for us than to have other people that think similarly, value similar things, have similar missions and goals. And so that becomes the driving force of everything. So if communication would require that we can speak outside of that we're interested in information from outside of that, this interspersing of all of the perspectives of the world. I mean, perspective, whether it's political, right, left, pro-war, anti-war, all of that stuff, we can think of that just like the bird in the tree. Every time it turns its head like that, it's not just trying to be cute. I mean, cute as hell they are, but it changes how they hear things. It changes how they see things. Wow. I've seen them hang upside down. They're sure they're enjoying themselves, but the world looks different. They see the world in a different way. So all larger so-called cultural norms are just perspectives. All you got to do is turn our head the tiniest little direction and see things in a new way again.
So well put. Your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
We are very can't answer that clearly because we are word obsessed. Humans are continually living now in a world of description, usually not even very innovative or interesting or fun description of what's around them that's based on what other people think more than anything else. That isn't the same thing as saying that they're being ruled by thinking. There's very few actually thinking people because true thinking is inevitably critical thinking. That's not a separate genre. If you're not critically thinking, you're not fucking thinking. I'm sorry.
Dude, that is such a brilliant, because it's a stupid question. Because here, Jesse, here's how most people answer it. I think we're more feeling beings. They literally say, I think we're more feeling beings. We invented in your thing is we are word obsessed is totally accurate. Especially studying linguists and McLuhan and all this, Joyce, all this word obsessed world we live in, printed word, spoken word, and implied words, is that we invented the word feeling and we invented the word thinking. So we think we can separate them, but we can't. They're like this. And so that's why Bridget Bardot says, when I make love, I don't think. And I'm like, good luck. How do you turn your brain off? Or people who meditate go, okay, now think about not thinking. And I'm curious your reaction to the bumper sticker on my street. On a car, it says, don't believe everything you think. And I go, well, you could say, don't believe everything you feel.
Oh, absolutely. But it doesn't make it less real or less impactful.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea of God, which I think the way it's been posited by organized religions, is probably this very harmful, very inaccurate construct. But the very idea of it has had more power than if he was standing here giving orders like Donald Trump.
Dude, do you know Harold Bloom? You would love this. A diver. Harold Bloom said, do you believe in God? No, they asked him, do you believe in God? He says, my attitude towards Yahweh is that I don't like him and I don't trust him and I wish he would go away, but I know he won't because he's built into the language. As Nietzsche said, he's part of the way we think. As soon as you use a verb involving being, you're in trouble.
I agree.
Okay. 2 from Alan Turing in the 50s. 1, is thinking a function of the soul?
Well, if we are truly evoking our souls or representing our souls in any way whatsoever, then our thinking is going to be ethical. So yes.
Yeah.
But if we're out of our bodies and out of our spirits and literally out of our minds, as so much of our species is, then hell no.
You are such a great wordsmith. I'm honored here. The second Turing, thank you so much, Jesse. The second Turing question is, can machines think?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Do you more
I wish it wasn't so.
I wish it was. Yes, I wish it wasn't. Okay. But you got to remember, I always love this one. William Carlos Williams says, poem is a machine made out of words. So anyways, it's all, but
just know the positive part of this, and this applies to AI and all the rest of it, is that it will never create anything but mimicry in terms of poetry and art. I mean, the best it can do is mimic because it's only using the most, average actually of what we put into it. Yeah. And to average anything is to make it less interesting, certainly. Fewer failings and fewer highs means less interesting.
Yeah. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I wouldn't apply that to everybody because I don't think that would be fair. People's characters are different. Certainly in my case, meaning is first and foremost. And so the feelings I'm comfortable are the ones that feed into what I'm seeking meaning, what I find meaning in, and where I'm seeking new meaning.
Yeah, I got it from Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says, happiness doesn't tend to last, meaning tends to last. Any thoughts on that?
Well, meaning lasts, but it doesn't stay the same form. I mean,
Yeah.
a kid's still yours after he turns 13 or 14, but he's damn sure not the same kid you had bouncing on your lap. You know, it's a new creature. It's an individual creature beyond whatever you prepared him for and gave to him genetically or through his training. So it's constantly shifting. And so it's lasting, but not in this form. I mean, no form is rigid. And certainly, I'm not a fan of concrete. I spent a fair amount of time railing against our lives becoming more concrete, cities becoming more concrete, our thoughts, our thinking processes becoming more concrete. To the degree that we lose so-called plasticity or fluidity, we've lost, again, we've stepped out of the dance, we've stepped out of the poem.
Yeah. I asked my mom years ago, I says, hey, mom, can I interview you? And she goes, yeah, but everything I say today, I might change for tomorrow. I goes, that's all right. See, I'm not trying to hold people to their answers. Like, you said this. I'm just trying to air ideas so I can learn. I'm just a student. And so, does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is
Mm.
consciousness there bubbling away and we're more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Well, consciousness is awareness. It's not word processing.
Yeah.
And as such, where does awareness come from? I mean, aren't you being aware when you step on a sticker? You know,
Yeah.
you're not only aware that it hurts, but you're aware that you damn sure should have been looking where you're going in life.
Yeah.
So I want more stickers, not less, more bare feet opportunities to notice, not less. So we're
Yeah.
talking about a neural level and an energetic level. And I don't know that we can actually separate those if we get into advanced science. I mean, the point of what's called energetics and what's called, simply neural response, they're very much maybe not synonymous, but they're very much interactive components of the same thing, the same concept, the same coming to life. At the moment when something can feel pain, desire, want, can notice what's around them, whether it's through eyes, nose, all these neglected physical senses. That is consciousness. Consciousness is when we're not doing that. So is somebody conscious who's staring at their phone all day long? They're not noticing a beautiful man or woman walking right next to them, alluringly. We're not feeling the breeze on our cheek, you know. We're not noticing somebody walking behind us that could stick a scissor in my back if that was their intent. We're
Yeah.
not, let alone noticing that 80% of the bird species are dying out, let alone noticing the climate change, the increase in wildfires, the new laws that are making autocracy a thing in this country. So the consciousness, are those people consciousness? Are you conscious at that point, even though you're sitting up, breathing, and typing like a madman on your phone with your two little thumbs? Are you truly
Yeah.
conscious? But you are conscious when you're a baby and you're smelling the breast milk and you're lusting for it and you're reaching out for it with your little hands. When every noise makes you jump, it makes you then either smile or recoil. That is consciousness, sir. And all the other levels, so-called higher consciousness, they have to build from that. They can't just be unmoored and floating like clouds. That wouldn't be consciousness. That would be drifting. That would be detachment. That
Yeah.
would be, outer body, the opposite of embodiment. Consciousness is an embodiment. So that the very highest things that come from it, which I believe are communion with the entire cosmos, that highest level has to grow out of this basic baby's moment of, wow, yes, touch, smell, feel, want.
Yeah. Beautiful. Jesse, there was an article in New Yorker a while back and it said basically it was a neuroscientist. And I think your approach on science really comes out. And when I get into my science questions, but I have to say it now, is this French historian said science uncovers facts that can be interpreted 1,000 ways. So I think that's what you're, a pattern recognizer, and you're after comprehensive awareness, the big picture. You
Mhm.
know, again, Pascal saying you got to know this end of the spectrum and that and everything in between. But the New York article said they were inquiring whether babies have dreams inside the womb, or is it the human has to be outside the womb and have experience before it can dream? Any inclination either way? Do you think the baby is dreaming inside the womb, or it has to be outside the womb and have experience to be able to dream?
Well, it doesn't need to be contradictory. They're having experience while they're in the womb.
Right, right.
I mean, they're already feeling, they're already hearing. We know, I mean, those are long known scientific facts. I mean,
Yeah,
they're already to some degree conscious because they are to some degree aware of themselves as a being
yeah,
and aware of a world around them that's affecting them. So they're sensate.
yeah,
So, it's so where the dream comes from is from being sensate at
yeah.
whatever point that happens. And for some people, they're 80 years old and they're still not sensate. Well, good luck. You have a few more days to get your shit together and actually notice something. Get on the table and dance before it's over, you old fuck.
That's also, you reminded me of Robin Williams saying, when you're in the womb, it's called womb service. So what's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Oh, goodness. Well, once again, thought would be actually processing something which few people seem to want to do anymore. Um, as far as just getting a flash in your head of something that may or may not be true, that's unmoored, that's certainly as fast as light.
Yeah, very good. Audre Lorde, the poet, said, you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague Yvonne Rainer said, oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest? And it doesn't have to be tangible.
Well, to what aim, though?
Yeah, well, you're answering a question with a question, so you win. That's what this series is all about. But basically, I open some of these questions with cute quotes. So you can apply dismantling the master's house, or you can apply the word new tool. But it's basically, I'm asking, what tool do you most gravitate towards? And again, it doesn't have to be tangible.
Well, I liked my friend Tom Robbins talked about being a can opener of the mind.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so that would be my number one. Second would be a good drum because everybody's forgotten not only how to think, but how to dance.
Good drum. That is amazing. So you mean Tom Robbins, the great author?
Yes.
Yeah, he was a major James Joyce Finnegan's Wake freak and a major freak for Marshall McLuhan. So I really like that. And I know you're a musician and a drummer and you love dance. I mean, Carolyn Casey had this Persian dance lady on yesterday that was just mind-blowing. But there's a cliche that you might appreciate. It says, if you can't say it, sing it. If you can't sing it, dance it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they're, what was it about? If they're not dancing, if it's not a dance, I'm not coming to the revolution.
Yeah. Oh, that's Emma Goldman. Yeah. If I can't dance in your revolution, that is a good one. I love that.
Well, and somebody wrote me to say that, our annual gathering, the Good Medicine Confluence, originally for herbalists until we realized it was attracting misfit healers of every kind and every variety into this amalgam, into this really bizarre tribe that was so much more than herbs. But somebody wrote me to say, quit calling it a conference, they said. And that's when we changed it from traditional Western conference to the Good Medicine Confluence. Confluence of rivers come together from many different places. They're all becoming necessary ingredients in that larger river flowing towards a common purpose, and a purpose of goodness and healing and love. And so it's like, wow, this is it. But he said, don't call it a conference. Because at a conference, you're expected to sit there quietly and listen to a PowerPoint. He says at your gatherings, he says you're expected to dance on the fucking desks.
Do it. And so much I learned after 40 years of giving discussion group events. I said, call it a salon. And my friend goes, it's a saloon. and in PowerPoint, the Pentagon made PowerPoints. They banned PowerPoints because they're too effective. And they know that your eyes switch up. You want to keep your eyes with the listeners eye contact. You don't
That's
want
it.
them get to go to a screen. Really good. So, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just thinking, yeah, and we're trying to evoke their visionary capacity that everybody has. We're trying to get them to envision things,
Yeah.
not to, and if you see a picture, you don't have to envision anything. The
Yeah.
whole point is not hear my stuff and memorize it and look at these pictures and memorize those. It's develop a new picture of what can be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when MTV came out, we were like, dude, we have music in our lifeblood. We don't need pictures to go along with it. And then it just changed. And then people like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. So it changes and moves on. And that's the asking the tool question for so many years. Someone finally says, well, what about a toy? What's a toy you gravitate towards?
I consider everything a toy, so I don't know. I don't know how to distinguish it. There's nothing that isn't a tool and a toy, sir.
Both the same. Good. Okay. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
I don't worry. I don't believe in worry. I have no use for it.
McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are at the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Jesse, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Well, there's two things that we're looking for, at least two things, One of them is a conformity, one is, and the other one is, would you repeat that question again?
Yeah, it's why do humans, the basic thing is, why do some humans ignore what the artists are really saying? They're saying something a little different, and some humans, and I mean, I do it too. I mean, I want to be elitist, but some people don't always get the deeper message of art. Why?
Well, they may never get the same deeper message. You got to hope to get a deep message at all.
Yeah.
That it's the discomfort, and fear is people are trying to avoid that while trying to find something that they can accept wholeheartedly without qualification, which is why I say conformist. There needs to be something that conforms to what they want to believe, not just that they conform to other people. And so, yes, we will look apart from the worst warnings, or we'll hear them in a intellectual or a romanticized or even an artistic sense, and yet not take it in as, wow, this is something that's affecting me in my world. This is something I have to personally act on. We can't, as much as I'm into this evocation of poetry and all this other stuff, we still there's something real that comes to. Like, I'm not saying it's dance or demonstrate. I'm saying take the dance to the demonstration. We have to know what is actionable and what requires ethically for us to act on. And it's not necessarily what we're going to accomplish. I mean, when somebody like, Crazy Horse suddenly rode down during the Indian Wars in the Great Plains of America, and he rode down in there and he saw, way more of the cavalry than what he could theoretically or reasonably handle. It wasn't a measurement of who has the most numbers. It was, this is what I have to do. He would yell, hey, it's a good day to die, and he'd ride down through them and usually scatter them. He didn't get shot down, not because he did a sensible thing, but because you have to do something out of the awareness that you develop. So if information isn't leading to meaning and meaning isn't leading to action, then that's not a complete gestalt.
Do artists have moral obligation?
Well, first of all, to be an artist means that you're obligated to be an authentic creator of an authentic vision that represents yourself and what matters to you. That's what an artist is.
Yeah.
But you can take that a step further and say that everybody has a ethical responsibility for who they are and how they act on the planet. There's no such thing as somebody insignificant enough to not have to take responsibility for how they're impacting things around them.
Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
An idea is not to be feared. The lack of ideas is what I worry about.
Yeah.
That
Can you
you know,
go ahead,
it,
sir?
it's people that don't have inspiration. Even the wrong inspiration at least leads to possibility.
Yeah.
Recombining, reshaping. So it's really it's the lack of that spark, of that creative spark. That's the scary thing. Old ideas can be endlessly reinterpreted. New ideas can be endlessly reshaped.
Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
uh, I imagine that I actually saw things very early in just visuals in terms of a cigarette pack. My father's on the side, the material on a chair or whatever. Um, but probably the earliest was stepping outside. I think it was the first time I'd been out, and in the springtime had just come, and I came out and I found it was rocks and butterflies and things, as the snow would melt, and that connecting with the planet, that there was something real beyond the safety and protection and the habits and the appearance of the family home. There was an outside, and so I've forever been trying to go far enough outside and touch all the elements of life in ways that illuminated for me what was on the inside.
Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Equally,
Yeah.
you know.
Tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was that impact?
Well, certainly my mother, family wise, I didn't have a lot of family. She's ornery and opinionated like me, so she had chased off a lot of the larger family. Uh, but the fact that she wanted me to be who I really am, it's almost inconceivable in the 1950s, when I was born. It just wasn't a thing to talk about somebody. You got to become your true self. You got to find who you are. You got to follow your dream. And she literally did that to the extent of bankrupting herself, trying to make sure I had a microscope when I wanted to see what was, smaller than my eye could catch. And she even moved for a time out of the city in order to give me a rural existence, which I was so craving, and a river to swim in. So that a human being could enable another human being is just this remarkable thing. And especially, I didn't realize at the time that we're in a society where we don't enable, we try to be like and fit in, but we don't just enable to be different. We don't enable to be authentic, and
Yeah.
we certainly don't enable to do the so-called impossible. And she gave me that. It was don't tell me it's impossible until you've tried it. And frankly, I don't use that word because of it. Bless her for that.
How is she dead?
Oh yes, long dead.
What age did she die at?
2 years younger than me.
So in her 70s.
Yes.
Okay, this is a side question. I'm curious, Jesse. Do you think longevity of the physical body is a little more DNA or a little more lifestyle choice? I know it's both and it's hard, but any hint of it going a little more either way?
Well, it doesn't matter. On one hand, it doesn't matter how
Yeah,
much you do for your body and what you eat. Your genetics are going to determine huge
yeah,
amounts. What diseases you can catch, your susceptibility to them. There's just so much that not just talking about the biological clock, which we can debate its existence,
yeah.
but in terms of what we're susceptible to, our strengths, our immune systems. My ex-wife, my current partner, she still is. Her immune system has cost her entire life. The daughter we share, the same thing. So I was blessed with a high immune system that allowed me to have HCV most of my life and multiple organ failure and all this stuff and still survive it. And I hardly have gotten a cold in my life.
Wow.
That's nothing I can take credit for. Certainly all the tequila shots and 90-mile-an-hour motorcycle rides can't be given any credit at all for the longevity.
Wow. Same question, Jesse, outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact, and what was the impact?
Uh, no shortage of that. Those I talked about seeking the so-called luminaries of the time that now are largely forgotten. I mean, even Marshall McLuhan is largely forgotten. If you mention the name just casually amongst the average citizen in this country, they no longer know who these people are. But at the time, they were highly significant because of their writings, their teachings, their activism. So I went around to meet all these people face to face and to to sense them, learn from them on a physical level. And so that was certainly uh, some of the greatest. But also, like I found street people to be walking philosophers, and I got more wisdom out of the barrio, hanging around with the grandmothers in the Spanish barrio, than I ever got in the suburbs. But also finding people like Gary Snyder, Winona LaDuke, Ralph Metzner. These were people who not only were brilliant and brilliant thinkers and historians and learners who never stopped being students, but they remained excited for life, excited to be alive. So they were examples to me, not just answers to questions, but they were reminders of why the question feels so damn good, why you never want to run out of them.
Yeah, that's what I learned from studying McLuhan, was the questions are more important than the answers. But it doesn't mean we can't still seek out and talk about it, but it is really well put. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
No, they did not.
Do you pray?
No, I do not.
If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
After I die, I'd rather hear it right now. Why, if you made all of humanity, did you bother making them bleed every month to where it drives them crazy and make people fart at public events?
Do e Thank you. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Well, evil would have to be conscious to be using anybody as a vehicle, which it is certainly not.
Yeah.
Evil is a human capacity, as is goodness, and all people have that capacity in equal measure. The great person is somebody who's had been threatened by great shadows and great darkness, who has thought ill things of other people, who's wanted to hurt something that they thought deserved hurting, and their goodness shines as a light next to that, and partly because of that.
Wow. Really, the hidden question, Jesse, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Ellen, I was still like 15 years old. I met him before he died. I was like 15 years old on his houseboat. He had me passing out nitrous oxide in balloons to all the guests. And I'll never forget, one of my early lessons was I went back and was trying to help him in the kitchen. And he says, you're always ranting about materialism. He says, but you don't get it. He says, this is materialism. He says, it's the feel of a good kimono, a good silk kimono. It's the feel of this raw fish as I cut it up for the sushi. I was like, okay, you son of a gun. I didn't agree with him all the time, but I sure agreed with that one.
That's beautiful. But what do you think of him saying, yeah, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them?
Well, if you let them scare you, you've empowered them. I don't think acknowledgement even matters one way or the other. It's like if they're a real threat, they're a threat, whether you notice them or not, let alone whether you acknowledge them or not. I mean, some of the greatest threats are the things that we don't even look at, and they're not the headlines that we notice on our news feeds. It's the things we're not even noticing. The people that are reporting are not even noticing are the biggest threats. So I don't know that acknowledgement really matters. That's kind of a credibility game, whether or not you need to sign the artwork. It's yeah.
Well, you know the artist, you might know him, Bruce Conner.
No.
Oh God, he's the most amazing experimental filmmaker America ever produced, and he's an amazing artist. But he was very successful in one art form, and then
Mhm.
he was switched to the next. And his gallery said, "Dude, you got to sign your paintings."
Mhm.
He says, "I don't want to." Exactly what you were saying. He goes, "I don't want to sign. Just sign them yourself." He goes, "No, we can't fake the signature. He says, just get a rubber stamp and sign it." So then he eventually signed them. Just signed Dennis Hopper. Signed someone else's name.
Yeah.
And, and
Dennis
then
would get
and
Dennis
then
would get a kick out of that, dude.
no, Dennis loved it because then eventually, well, Dennis
Yeah.
didn't like it at first, but then eventually, when Bruce Conner was having huge shows in Mocha, then they would have the
Yeah.
Dennis Hopper room of all, and he was so
Yeah.
proud. He knew it wasn't him. But I love that.
Yeah.
Don't sign your painting. That
Right.
is a heavy. That whole signature on paintings thing
Well,
is,
yeah, and then ours, you see, I knew Dennis in Taos, and his brother David
yeah,
was a close friend of mine in Taos back in the day, when all the spiritual seekers were going there and hanging out and stuff. But
yeah,
yeah, at the same time, R.C. Gorman, a Native American painter, would put his name really larger and larger on his. That was quite a joke as to the contrasting of how we approach our artwork. But it's
yeah,
about impact. And when it comes to enemies, you brought up enemies. To me, the enemy is the construct. The enemy is, it's the system. It's the set of ideas that we ascribe to. It's the fears that we buy into. It's the things we let scare us and convince us we can't do anything about. I mean, that's the enemy. An individual can be a threat or not a threat, but that doesn't make them an enemy. If they
yeah.
want to be an enemy, let them call themselves that. But I don't have any time for that. That's an attribution that has no power.
Well, I repeat this, and I don't know if it's that accurate, but I heard it somewhere that American Indian Indigenous say your enemy is your best teacher.
Well, one of them.
Yeah. One of them is exactly. But here's Nassim Taleb. Games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. Gregory Bateson says, if the criminal gets caught, does he go, "Whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff"? Or does he go, "I did something morally and socially wrong"? But bottom line, it's a lot of prompts. So you can go wherever you want. But the bottom line question is, does punishment work?
No.
So
No, and
James,
I've been around enough locked up people in my years of activism, and to know that all it does is it strengthens your resolve if you had any, and it reminds you who the problem is, regardless. It reminds you of the ways the system is unjust and fucked up. And
yeah,
so, no. And punishing a child, no, that doesn't work.
yeah,
Making them aware that there are consequences to everything good and bad that you do, yes, that's very important. You can't do
yeah,
anything in life. You can't stand up without being a consequence. A
yeah.
breeze is moved, something could be knocked over. You're no longer sitting and working. That's a consequence. But punishment, no, punishment is an absurd concept. That's why prisons are nothing but warehouses. And the whole concept of punishment is absurd.
You probably know this one, but Harry Smith, he wanted
Mhm.
to get busted in your part of the country because the guys who were in the jails were Hispanic drunks who knew how to do string games. And so Harry would literally get busted so he could learn the string games. I says, to me, that's a dedicated person.
Absolutely.
Um, James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, "This is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree?" Years later, Faulkner said, "Sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism." Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Well, art is an amplification of life.
Yeah,
So it's casting sparkle on what is often unseen and unassayed. So it's very important. And
yeah,
through through a series of patternings and symbols, it's able to open up new doorways, new portals to new ways of being and thinking. You know, if it's art, which movies can be, certainly all of them have never been. There's always been and still is, a certain percentage that's incredible. You walk out of it moved. So in whatever way that you're deeply moved, that wasn't going to happen at Starbucks. That wasn't going to happen doing your usual routine at home. So yes, there's nothing. Yes, I believe in the Mughal thing of, live in your Hobbit village. Be at one with your friends, your neighbors, your yard that you're growing, the plants that you have in the garden, the house plants that you have, the things that you're doing with your children in your house, tasting your food, making interesting food. That's all very real and very important. Art is something more than that. Art is something that doesn't just build a beautiful door, it knocks doors off of hinges. It busts the heart open even when you want to guard it. It brings tears to your eyes even when you weren't ready for it. It makes you feel like when you step out in the parking lot after an old school, theater movie, and you step out and you got to do something. You don't even have to know what it is yet. But the sense that has to be taken, that feeling, that inspiration, that set of images has to be taken and somehow realized in the real world. So that's the purpose of art, not to replicate, certainly not to replace, but to lead us to more living.
Yeah.
Not take the place of it.
Beautiful. Well put. One artist said, art is making your problems other people's problems. Any thoughts on that line?
I suppose it is for some people. That's all it is for some people. I mean, art is different for every person because if it's real artwork, it's their vision based on their experiences and their priorities and their values, and more than anything else, their goals. And so it's going to vary very drastically. For me, I've done a lot of graphic artwork and music in the midst of all this activism and, rewilding, chasing cattle off of a wilderness. In the midst of all of that is this artistic vision of, can I paint something or draw something that makes people feel that the world is more than it appears. It's not mundane the way it's packaged. It's not predictable the way that we might think it is. It is this unpredictable, ever amazing, ever transitioning thing that sparkles, that glitters, that cries, that laughs, that makes love and that makes a new reality. So that reminder, constant reminder, and then we take that, we put that into the real world.
Really good. Jesse, walk me through sort of your through line. You are so many things, and people can explore your websites and learn more about you in all those regards. But let's take the two, author and activist. Where's the tipping point where you says, I'm going to write things, I'm going to write poems, I'm going to write books? And where's the point where you go, I'm going to be an activist? Those tipping points, like in military school, are you then going, I'm going to write? So where's your education responding to your, like, the great word that you dove into that I was really impressed was calling. I said, what caused you to be an author as a calling? And I refer people to the video where you go off on the word calling. That is like, your calling is when you come out of your mother's womb. I mean, that was beautiful. But there's some tipping point, I imagine, where you go, I can write and I can be an activist. That's for me. That's what I'm looking for. Where's that tipping point in your life?
Well, I don't think of it as a tipping point, but rather a progression.
Yeah.
And I think for everybody, it's as you're coming into realizations and into feelings and visions of things, it's to what degree can you make this real? Well, a lot of things are beautiful without ever being made real.
Yeah.
Substantial or consequential. But if we're talking about purpose, mission, and calling, we're talking about something that is consequential. What is there about the gifts that are within us and the gifts that we've been given by our experience, our education, our mentors? What is it that we can do to gift that to the world? You know, what can we add to that? How can we dress that up? How can we present that in a way that's unique to us and yet takes advantage of everything we've been given in order to continue giving? And so,
Well,
like, it's not like just all of a sudden I need to make this real. I got uh, the saddest thing, well, saddest thing is so many sad things, but one of the more absurd things was hearing this person talk about that they didn't have a satisfactory relationship, but they had all these books out about the fine points of sexuality and this stuff. And I'm thinking, well, that's an awful lot of time spent analyzing it and not nearly enough time in bed.
that's like Scott Peck, who wrote The Road Less Traveled. Did you see that expose they did in Rolling Stone magazine? It was like he was totally fucked up in his life, but he was writing the book that was self-help for everybody. So anyways, I appreciate what you said there, because the screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play when you're writing a book? Your creative process, writing a book, what role does intention play?
Well, I, I think intention is vital to it because intention is the heart of everything we do, whether it's creative or not. So, I mean, intention is always at the heart of it. But anytime it's made obvious, then it's manipulation and coercion. It doesn't matter if it's a painting. Like if I do a painting of a bunch of ICE agents beating up some innocent guy in the middle of the street, that's too obvious of intention. That's going to result in the response. If you're looking for a positive response, that's not going to get it. Only people that are going to like it are going to be people that agree that they're assholes. It's going to be people that are already dealing with it or know that they can't deal with it the way that they want to. But if the very people that are doing the destruction, for example, that are doing the beating on the heads with the clubs, if they saw something and they related to it, were moved by it, were touched by it, that later reflects on their own ways of treating the world, that is successful art. That's the melding of intention, unseen, but at the heart, with exposing it, exploring it, and sharing it in ways that moves people in ways that they never expected.
Really good, Jesse, because the next question is Marcel Duchamp saying, all there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your potential reader when you're writing your book?
Well, my partner has told me that not nearly enough. So, it has to be true to its vision. And then I hope that it will attract those that were ready to hear it.
McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness. Like knife and fork extends our teeth, shutter in a camera or projector extends our eyelid, and maybe non-tangible, say religion or philosophy, extends consciousness. What does the writing utensil extend for you? Whether it's keyboard or a pen, what humanness does it extend?
Well, I don't hold out humanness, first of all. I hate to qualify this, but I don't hold it up as being higher than animalness, for example,
Right,
or
right.
or plantness, or beingness, and all the ways that word's misused. It's so like, to me, the humans are only special to the degree we allow ourselves to be that authentic, that diverse, that creative, and that giving, all consciously. At that point, yes, we're something special. Until then, we're, just other beings on this planet. And so, like,
I could shift the word, Jesse. Let's try this. McLuhan actually used the word human sensorium. So let's drop the word human and just say, what sensorium does the pen extend for you?
Does what now?
Does the pen, or the keyboard, whatever you write on, what sensorium does the pen or keyboard extend for you when you're writing a book?
It's, I mean, a book, everything I do is through a sensorium, and it's meant for awakening other people's sensorium, which is to say all the ways that they can be conscious, aware, and sensate. It's everything I do. If I write about an apple, I want people to think, how much, does it have pesticides in it? How beautiful is it? How many different kinds are there? What taste does it have? But more than all that, I want them to end up biting one.
Yeah.
This is not culmination. It's just a graduation. For me,
Graduation.
the words are an evocation that has to lead to a graduation. That
Yeah.
graduation is manifestation, embodiment, action, actualizing. And so, damn it, if we're talking about love, show a little.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the ecology, you have to do something about it, even if it's just in your own yard. Everything that we consider and put into our creative writing process or any other creative process, we have to do something with that. It's never just, oh, that was fun. Because even fun, the minute you make it intentional, you want people to enjoy, suddenly it has purpose. Suddenly it
Yeah.
has additional meaning.
What do you think the motive, or what's your feelings was the motive of the cave artist? Cave music, cave dance. We have some record of cave art. What's your guess or hunch was their motive?
I'm quite disappointed at how many archaeologists suggested it's, I am here, look at me.
Yeah.
I think that's they're basing that on their own feelings and responses rather than putting it on people millions of years ago. Well, I have paintings similar to that in the cave walls in this river canyon in these mountains right here. It's the ancient Mogollon peoples called the San Francisco culture now, but we believe they were calling themselves the sweet medicine people. And their artwork was clearly saying a story.
Yeah.
It wasn't a signature. It wasn't a mirror. It wasn't an exclamation mark. It was a story. And it was a story they expected other people to add to, and so that it would continue growing and continue changing. But it was always active. They're not symbols that have the sense of solidity, like this is the Godhead, this is the cross, this is the whatever. But more, these are actions. It's doing something. It's a snake coming out of a rock and becoming alive. It's the sunshine rising up inside the person. It's Cocopelli with the heavy basket on his back, bent over, and yet he's still, erotically excited and still planting his seeds as he goes. So it's movement.
Yeah.
And it's story. And it's what we most need. We're inundated with words and so-called thinking, very shallow thought, templates of thought. But where's the story? There's a story of the planet that goes all the way back at least 4.5 billion years. We can start the story with the beginning of life. We can take it through all the extinctions and the evolution and the changes and all the human history, which is a very, very short period of that larger earthland story. And then there's us. I mean, how impoverished are we that we don't have a story to contribute? How can we imagine that what we do and live and feel isn't worthy of being explored, understood, evocated, whether it's drawings, writings, videos, whatever, evocated to others and shared? That's how selfish is that too? We're not only cheated ourselves if we're not feeling worthy of our story and living it and breathing it into life, but also we're denying other people. That story could lead them and should lead them to a wider exploration of their own life, of their own moment. Some aspect of that story should light up some aspect of their story. And in that way, we continue expanding this mythology that's not locked into stone like a religion or a law, but it's an evolving tale, more like a song or a dance. Every generation, it will be different. Every person that hears it will speak it differently, but it's precious and it's real and it's ours.
Yeah, I love what Sunrod taught me. It's not he says it's history. It's his story, not my story. My story is mystery. So again, wordplay is fun. And this guy I interviewed who was going to school with Bob Dylan, and then he became his road manager, and now he's a religious dude. He says, I learned that from a friend that there's a difference between storytelling and narrative, and that narrative doesn't lie. I'm curious, is there a difference, in your opinion, between storytelling and narrative, and this thought that narrative doesn't lie? I'm glad you're laughing. We're here to have fun, man.
Well, words don't have to be intentionally wrong to be lies. It's all in there. It's in the ear of the beholder, my friend.
Yeah.
So that, you can hear a lot. You can hear the lie in it, and you can hear the truth in it, and that's true. That's a fact for anything that comes up.
But do you think, is there a difference between narrative and storytelling?
Well, narrative is just sterilized, programmed, locked into place, attempting to make it so true that it won't change 2 minutes later by the next person that considers it. It's in other words, it's stultifying, it's concrete, it's bullshit.
Yeah. Hollis Frampton, the experimental filmmaker, said, narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. I added this question.
Oh my God.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Well, that was rude.
No, if you wanted to react on Hollis's quote, that's fine. I have a question aside.
What's the question?
Can you forget to die?
That's perspective again and framing. I mean, we're going to endlessly change whether we like it or not while we're alive. We can say, I've always been like this. I'll always be like this. This is who I really am. We are changing. Everything we experience is evolving our being. So it's like we certainly aren't going to change when we reach our so-called mortal end. It will be a mortal transition, not a mortal end. What that is certainly nothing like anybody I know, philosopher or priest or anything else has ever claimed. And the fact that we don't know is what makes it so amazing. But we do know it is transition. It's the one thing that we can't escape. So can we forget? Yeah, we can forget to be alive.
Yeah.
We can forget we're here. We can forget we matter. So like the real question is, can we stop forgetting?
Yeah. Well, that's James Joyce's advice in Finnegan's Wake. He said, remember to forget. Yeah. So, then you evoked the Captain Beefheart poem I love. The stars are matter, we are matter, but it doesn't matter. And he was a...
I would rephrase that. I would say there's nothing that doesn't matter, except for us thinking it doesn't.
Yeah. Good. Now, this is a Marcel Proust question. You brought up lying and truth there. I'm going to ask you this one. Got it from him. On what occasion do you lie?
When I'm being pulled over by the police.
Really good. I love Tom Waits said, on what occasion do you lie? He says, I didn't know I needed an occasion.
Well, yeah. Once again, if somebody's intentionally trying to cause harm through mistruth, it's one thing. Other than that, it's just, veracity is something that's for us to hear and to measure and to invest in. Yeah.
This is Eartha Kitt. Truth is a theory that is constantly being disproved. Only lies, it seems, go on forever. Any thoughts on that one?
Well, of course they do. Lies are convenient. The reason they exist is because they made somebody more comfortable, made them feel like they had less to be worried about, concerned with, and think about. And the things, but what's crucial as artists is that we leave something behind that's a gift because it distinctly discomforts.
Yeah.
It makes people aware there's something else yet to be discovered, that there's some incongruity in between how they act, think, and how they think and feel. And so to that purpose, it's beneficial, and we should be embracing it and giving it credit.
Yeah, Louis Buñuel says, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. Now, most people go, that's good. I love that. And one guy finally challenged me. He says, that's bullshit, because if I'm seeking something, it's because I want to find it. So I morphed it into the question, if the cliche is the journey's more important than the destination. If the journey's more important than the destination, why do we have to name or seek a destination?
Well, the destination should be right where you are right now.
Yeah.
That should not be confused with aims and goals, which is part of purpose. It's like there is nowhere to go. There's something to be, something to do.
Yeah. That's psychogeography. Flaneurs, all the people who changed the world forever sat in Paris and just drank coffee and had slack, in the coffee houses. And then they changed, as what Joyce found, and eventually say, you can find an epiphany in everydayness.
Destination is conclusive. And that's the last thing we need in our lives, is to think we're going to go to some place and that's as far as we go.
Yeah.
How absurd and how unkind is that?
Yeah. Where did you learn that,
Direction.
Jesse?
Direction. Let's replace destination with direction, sir.
Yeah. But where did you learn that? The way your parents raised you, or on your own? Where did you learn that?
Some combination of my experiences, insights, and the vast trove of books that I was reading.
Yeah. This is Shelby Foote, the historian, playwright. A fact is not a truth until you love it. What do you think of that one?
It's a truth when it resonates strongly enough that you commit to it.
Yeah.
So I almost agree.
Almost agree. I like that. You should hear how many people hate that one. They kind of think it sounds cute, but a fact is not a truth until you love it. It also reminds me, I have Stone, who I love. He goes, the truth as I see it.
Well, the fact is temporal, mister.
Yeah.
So like what's true in this second, how hot this water is or isn't, or coffee, whatever you're drinking, that's its truth. And a second later, it's a different temperature. Everything is that way. So,
yeah,
facts are just these momentary things until something else happens, or you see things in a different angle, or new evidence shows up. So, facts are data. And we all know that data has some use, and we all know the problems with it. Data will never take the place of connection or heartful certainty.
Totally agree. In 67, Mel Brooks put out a film called The Producers, and his lead character, Leo Bloom, is played by Gene Wilder. And here's the line he yells in the movie: I want everything I've seen in the movies. Could you fill in the blank? I want everything I...
Oh, I want everything that I want to give to the world that's supposedly not possible to be possible, whether anybody notices or not.
Wow. That's heavy. That anticipates one of my other questions upcoming. Okay. What's more important, Jesse, conviction or compromise?
Well, the better question would be, which is more dangerous, since they can both get you into a hell of a lot of trouble.
Wow. Which is more dangerous? See, that's what I'm after. It's me and you versus the wording on the questions. We're like psychoanalyzing the words. And I love it when people change the wording, because that's my oldest question. I got it 40 years ago from Christine McKenna. And my favorite was, I asked these two 8 and 10-year-old boys, what's more important, conviction or compromise? And they went, those words are too big for us.
Good answer.
Yeah, but then it took about 25 years before someone went, what's more important, conviction or compromise? Guy said, depends on what you mean by important. So everybody focuses on the last two words. They don't even catch that first word. But I mean, can you guess what I get most, 80% of people answer which way. What's your guess?
They probably fear compromise more.
Boy,
No?
you're a good person. 80% say conviction.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, conviction led to the Crusades. It's led to the president we have.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I'm
but,
totally.
but compromise is it's more pernicious and constant and more in keeping with human character. There's
Yeah.
nothing more dangerous than being nothing being strongly what we feel and care about. What the danger is that we don't feel strongly enough, or we're not doing anything to act the part.
Yeah. Well, see, that's why I ask these questions, because I want people to answer them the way I think, but really I want them to answer the way they think so I can open up new ways of thinking for myself. And, I love it when someone says compromise. I go, oh,
Let me just say, I would prefer to be wrong or even have a disaster because of my excessive conviction than
yeah,
than through depletion and impoverishment and compromise and selling out any aspect of my artistic vision or my ethical truth.
yeah.
I mean,
It's like,
pick your way of being wrong, okay? But
yeah,
I don't think I've ever entered into anything where conviction wasn't conditional. And people say, well, how is that love if it's conditional? How is that, you believe in a living earth? Well, yes, I believe in a living earth within this certain context. We have to talk about all this criteria and, all these possibilities in order to be on the same page of even understanding what it means to be part of a living earth. So, it's not a conviction. My sense that it's not, that it's not unfeeling, that it's not a dead, rock, is without doubt. I mean, I can't possibly come up with doubts. That doesn't mean I'm right. It means I can't come up with doubt. But most things, I'm totally capable of doubt to the extent of there's a revision out there that's an even clearer view than what I have now.
he really evokes McLuhan, and Woody Allen couldn't get Fellini or Buñuel in his movie Annie Hall, so he settled for McLuhan. And McLuhan plays himself for a couple seconds, that very short minute or two in Annie Hall, and he says, this is the line that they use in the screenplay, which is Marshall's line, and he said it originally as a question. You mean my whole fallacy is wrong? Now that's a question. That's what Marshall was all about, inventing new questions and new metaphors. Woody had him say it as a statement. You mean my whole fallacy is wrong? So he presented the world, McLuhan, to the world and pop culture backwards. But it again applies another McLuhan phrase, which is a half a truth is still a lot of a truth. So he still got the line across. You mean my whole fallacy's wrong?
To be accurate, I think there should probably be a question mark on most of the sentences in my 25 books.
Yeah, there you go. So that's
I'm not asking, is this bullshit? But I'm asking, is this true for you? And is there something else connected to this that I haven't seen yet?
That is a great motive, and you articulated that well. I wish all my essays could do the same, and I try to do them that way. But McLuhan said all words are metaphorical. So then what is the word literal a metaphor for?
Hubris.
Hubris. What's another word for hubris?
Thinking we're hot shit and have all the answers.
That is good. Well, Jesse, I asked for 90 minutes. It's already 90 minutes. I'd love to do a part 2 because we really, really just scratched the surface, and I'd love to get deeper into some of your other things that you do, like drumming and music, graphic art, and especially your philosophy of anima. I think we could really this word rewilding, all that is something I'd love to pursue, and it could be like 6 months down the line. So I really want to thank you for all your time and energy, and I highly encourage people to pursue all your activities, because you're really, even though you're out in the wilderness, you have a strong presence on YouTube and on various websites, and your 25 books are available. Where are they available? I mean, all over
just not just online, because I don't participate in the system on any level,
Yeah.
not just out of ethics, but because I'm an outlaw with no practical abilities. But planthealerbookstore.com will get people to the Plant Healer page, and they can see all of the books that are available. They can also be ordered through Amazon, but better to order them through the bookstore. Most of my work is available for free on that YouTube channel, Herb Rally. The Plant Healer episodes, if they'll check out that link, will show them over 60 different videos of me going off about things in ways that has people scratching their heads and hopefully moving their feet afterwards. And I would like to invite anybody, including yourself, to not just come and chronicle and try to understand the experience of this confluence this coming October, but to be one of the ingredients that creates the potion. Because the magic of that is people as eclectic as yourself and you listeners to this program, and people that are different enough to appreciate differentness in others, because all of the teachings, not just about healing, but about remaking our sense of reality, re-inhabiting our bodies, re-inhabiting the magic and the spirit of what it means to be alive in this very dark times that we're in. It's a chance for delight, not just education. So if you could possibly come to that, participate, be a part of that. It's at Ghost Ranch, where Georgia O'Keeffe, the artist of the erotic flowers and bones, that's where her cabin was. That's where she came to get away from the city. And it is such magic all around there, this ancient Indian vibe from the Native Americans that lived there, combined with these purple and pink spires and this incredible landscape. So just stepping in there, it's like you're filled with this sense of anima, of spirit, of enlivenedness. And everybody that meets there, it's like, wow, I don't know this person, but I feel like I've known them forever. This is family. Where they live, they might feel like the misfits that nobody understands, they're apart. There they feel they're part of something instead of apart from things. And so please, yourself and everybody listening, they can come. I'll find some way if you don't have the funds or trade or whatever. But if you feel the sense of questing, and I mean ancient questing, climbing on a mountain to hear the spirit talk to you, having your life reshaped, be shaken down to the very foundation of your being and finding your roots again, this is the place to do it. And I would love to host you being there.
Jesse, so beautifully put, in your articulate and concise, and I really appreciate your time and energy. It reminds me of, again, Marcel Duchamp, when he's at a cocktail party and someone says, "Oh, what do you do?" And he goes, "I'm a breather." And, people go, like, "I'm a breather too. We have something in common." I think like talking with you is like conscious breathing, conspire, breathing together. It's like lifeblood. And just to end with McLuhan's great line, which incorporates a couple words you've used today. Communication of the new is a miracle, but it's not impossible. So I really appreciate, I think you communicated a lot of newness to me today, Jesse. And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button now, I hope this never ends and we keep talking forever and ever.
All right, my friend. So good to have you on the planet with me.
Thank you so much.